South Africa at a crossroads, democracy, diplomacy, and the politics of exit. A country under the microscope. South Africa is once again under global scrutiny. At home, the country is navigating political transition, coalition governance, and rising public frustration over jobs, services, and trust in leadership. Abroad, it is being discussed through powerful narratives, some rooted in concern, others shaped by ideology, fear, or selective framing. This is not a story about collapse. It is a story about pressure, internal and external, and how a democratic state responds when history, perception, and geopolitics collide. A president's warning. A huge thank you to our subscribers for your amazing support. To our first-time viewers and guests, we're thrilled to have you here. Your engagement is just as valuable. If you're enjoying this, taking a second to hit subscribe would be fantastic and help us keep creating content you love. Speaking at the 114th anniversary of the African National Congress, President Cyril Ramaphosa issued a strong warning. He cautioned against what he described as domestic and international bullies, forces seeking to divide South Africans and undermine the country's constitutional democracy. The speech came at a defining moment. For the first time since the end of apartheid in 1994, the ANC no longer holds an outright parliamentary majority, following its poor performance in the 2024 general elections. Coalition governance has replaced political dominance, forcing compromise, negotiation, and a redefinition of power. Ramaphosa framed his message as both a defense of democratic values and a reminder that those values cannot be taken for granted. Part to the Constitution and its strains. The president reflected on the 30th anniversary of South Africa's constitution, describing it as one of the most progressive in the world. Born out of negotiation after decades of apartheid, it enshrines equality before the law, non-racialism, non-sexism, and human dignity. But Ramaphosa warned that these principles are facing growing attacks, not only from domestic failures, but from global forces that challenge democratic norms everywhere. He placed South Africa's struggles within a broader international pattern marked by misinformation, political polarization, and rising authoritarian tendencies. South Africa, he said, is not immune. Narratives, misinformation, and pushback. Without naming specific organizations, Ramaphosa criticized groups he says are spreading misleading narratives about South Africa, particularly claims of racial persecution and white genocide. The government and independent analysts have repeatedly rejected these claims, arguing they lack evidence and distort the country's reality. But supporters of the U.S. refugee program see the situation differently. Some Afrikaner families argue that crime, economic uncertainty, and political rhetoric have created an environment where they no longer feel secure. From their perspective, seeking refuge is not an accusation, it is a personal decision. U.S. officials backing the program frame it as humanitarian, emphasizing choice rather than judgment. South Africa's government, however, insists that personal fears should not be reframed as systemic persecution. When tensions boiled over, diplomatic tensions reached a breaking point in mid-December. South African authorities raided a U.S. refugee processing site in Johannesburg. 7 Kenyan contractors working for a U.S.-based refugee organization were arrested for alleged visa violations. 2 U.S. refugee officers were briefly detained. Washington called the incident unacceptable. Pretoria said it was enforcing the law. The episode exposed how fragile relations between the two countries had become. The quiet deal behind closed doors. Days later, senior officials from both governments met privately in Pretoria. According to an internal meeting summary reviewed by Reuters, the goal was simple: de-escalation. South Africa assured the United States that it would not interfere with the refugee program, provided it complied with South African law. At the same time, officials made clear that non-interference should not be mistaken for endorsement. Publicly, the disagreement remained. Privately, coordination resumed. This was not a reversal of principle. It was pragmatic statecraft, law, diplomacy, and continuity. South Africa's foreign ministry later emphasized that enforcing immigration law is not a political signal. Officials recommended practical adjustments to prevent future incidents, including hiring more American staff and contracting South Africans locally. Meanwhile, the refugee program continues. More Afrikaners arrived in the United States in December than in any previous month, with higher numbers expected in early 2026. Public disagreement persists. Movement continues. What this moment reveals. Taken together, these two stories reveal a deeper truth about South Africa today. The state is publicly defending its constitutional democracy and pushing back against narratives it sees as harmful. Privately, it is managing reality, allowing people to leave, preventing escalation, and keeping diplomatic channels open. This is not weakness. It is governance under pressure. A democracy learning how to hold its ground without closing its borders or its options. Two stories, one country. South Africa today is not a nation in freefall. It is a nation in transition, struggling with inequality, services, and trust while navigating global scrutiny and internal change. Some leave in search of certainty. Many stay to build something harder. The story of South Africa is not just about who exits. It's about how a democracy adapts and what it chooses to protect along the way. This is Sal Pier, signing off from VlogND, where we work to uncover the true stories of the world and Africa. Thank you for spending your time with us. If you enjoyed the journey, subscribing is the best way to ensure you never miss the next one. We are so grateful for your support.